Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to confront one of the most powerful forces shaping your life, your mind. Before you change your circumstances, before you improve your relationships, before you step into joy and peace, you must first ask yourself one honest question. Is my mind working for me, or is it working against me? Because the truth is simple and life-changing. Your life will never rise above the level of your thinking. Your mind is the control center of your entire life, shaping the direction you move in whether you realize it or not. Every decision you make, every reaction you have, and every emotion you experience is first processed through your thoughts. Long before actions become habits and habits become lifestyles, they begin as simple ideas in the mind. This is why two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes, because their thinking leads them down different paths. What you consistently think about becomes the lens through which you see the world. If your mind is filled with fear, you will interpret opportunities as risks and challenges as threats. If your mind is filled with hope, you will see the same situations as chances to grow and learn. Life does not respond only to what happens to you. It responds to how you think about what happens to you. And that response determines whether you move forward or stay stuck. Many people try to change their lives by changing their surroundings, relationships, or routines, yet nothing truly shifts because their thinking remains the same. You can move to a new place, start a new job, or meet new people. But if your thoughts are still negative, limited, and defeated, the same patterns will follow you. Lasting change always begins on the inside, because the mind sets the limits for what you believe is possible. Your expectations are born in your mind, and those expectations quietly guide your behavior. When you expect failure, you unconsciously prepare for it. When you expect rejection, you hesitate to try. When you expect success, confidence begins to rise and effort increases. In this way, your mind acts like a steering wheel, turning your life in the direction of what you believe will happen long before reality confirms it. The words you speak about yourself are often a reflection of what your mind has already accepted as truth. If your thinking is filled with self-doubt, your words will carry weakness. If your thinking is filled with belief and confidence, your words will carry strength. Over time, those words reinforce your thoughts, creating a cycle that either builds you up or slowly pulls you down. Your emotional state is also deeply connected to your thinking patterns. Persistent worry, frustration, and sadness are often the result of unchecked thoughts that replay negative scenarios again and again. On the other hand, peace, joy, and confidence grow when the mind learns to focus on what is constructive rather than destructive. Emotions follow thoughts, and this is why managing your mind is essential to enjoying life. Life will always present challenges, but your mind determines whether those challenges become stopping points or stepping stones. A defeated mind sees obstacles as proof that it should quit, while a renewed mind sees them as opportunities to develop strength and wisdom. The same obstacle can either break a person or build them, depending entirely on how they think about it. The quality of your relationships is also influenced by your mindset. If your mind is filled with suspicion, offense, and insecurity, even healthy relationships can feel stressful. When your thinking is balanced, patient, and understanding, connections grow stronger. How you think about people often determines how you treat them and how you interpret their actions. Over time, the mind establishes boundaries that feel real but are often self-created. Thoughts like, "I can't change, this is just how I am," or "it's too late for me," quietly place limits on growth. These mental limits become invisible walls that keep people from stepping into new possibilities, even when the door is wide open. This is why your life will never rise above the level of your thinking, because the mind decides what you attempt, what you avoid, and what you believe you deserve. When your thinking is small, fearful, and negative, life feels restricted and heavy. But when your thinking begins to expand, life starts to move in a new direction with greater clarity and purpose. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves your attention or your agreement, yet many people live as if every thought they have is a fact. The mind constantly produces ideas, memories, fears, and imaginations, and some of them appear so convincing that they feel true, even when they are not. Just because a thought sounds familiar or repeats itself does not mean it reflects reality or defines who you are. Many negative thoughts are automatic, formed through past experiences, disappointments, or words spoken by others. Over time, these thoughts settle into the mind and begin to feel normal, even though they may be harmful and limiting. A person may think, "I always fail," or "I'm not good enough," without ever stopping to question where that belief came from or whether it is actually accurate. Thoughts often exaggerate situations and predict outcomes that never happen. The mind has a tendency to imagine the worst-case scenario, especially when fear is involved. It tells you that you will be rejected, embarrassed, or unsuccessful, even when there is no real evidence to support those conclusions. When these thoughts go unchallenged, they create unnecessary stress and hesitation. You have the ability to pause and examine what you are thinking instead of immediately reacting to it. When a negative thought appears, you can ask yourself whether it is helpful, truthful, or productive. This simple act of questioning weakens the power of destructive thinking and creates space for a healthier perspective to take its place. Replacing negative thoughts does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means choosing thoughts that lead to solutions rather than defeat. Instead of focusing on what cannot be changed, you begin to focus on what can be learned, improved, or done differently next time. This shift in thinking brings clarity and restores a sense of control over your life. The thoughts you accept repeatedly become beliefs, and beliefs influence your actions. If you believe you are incapable, you will avoid opportunities that require courage. If you believe you can grow, you will take steps forward even when you feel uncertain. Challenging negative thoughts interrupts this cycle and opens the door to new possibilities. Your mind can be trained through intentional practice, just like any other skill. At first, challenging negative thoughts may feel uncomfortable because the mind prefers familiar patterns, even unhealthy ones. But with consistency, the mind begins to recognize positive and truthful thinking as the new normal. Positive thinking is not about denying pain or difficulty. It is about refusing to let negativity control your outlook. It allows you to acknowledge challenges without being overwhelmed by them. When you replace harmful thoughts with constructive ones, you strengthen emotional resilience and inner peace. What you allow to stay in your mind will eventually shape your attitude and behavior. Thoughts that remain unchallenged gain authority over your emotions and decisions. By choosing which thoughts to accept and which to reject, you take back control over how you respond to life. This ability to challenge and replace negative thinking is one of the most powerful tools you possess, because it determines whether your mind becomes a source of strength or a source of constant struggle, influencing every area of your life from confidence to peace. What the world often calls a normal mind is one that is constantly busy, distracted, and overwhelmed. People rush from one responsibility to another, carrying worry and pressure as if it were a natural part of life. Stress becomes so common that it is accepted as normal, even though it quietly drains energy, joy, and clarity from the mind and heart. An anxious mind is praised for being alert and responsible, yet constant anxiety does not protect you, it exhausts you. Worry convinces people that if they think about problems long enough, they can control the outcome. In reality, this kind of thinking only keeps the mind trapped in fear, replaying the same concerns without producing solutions. Offense has also become a normal state of mind in today's world. People are easily hurt, quickly irritated, and constantly comparing themselves to others. This emotional sensitivity is often mistaken for strength or self-awareness, but it actually keeps the mind in a fragile and reactive state, unable to experience lasting peace. A healthy mind, on the other hand, is not free from responsibility, but free from constant inner chaos. It understands the difference between being aware of problems and being consumed by them. Instead of allowing every situation to disturb its peace, it chooses calm responses and thoughtful reactions, even when circumstances are difficult. The disciplined mind learns to slow down in a fast-paced world. It does not allow every thought, notification, or opinion to demand attention. By setting mental boundaries, it protects focus and emotional balance, making space for clarity and wise decision-making. Confidence in a healthy mind does not come from control over circumstances, but from trust in inner stability. While an anxious mind needs everything to go right in order to feel safe, a peaceful mind remains steady even when outcomes are uncertain. This inner confidence allows a person to move forward without constant fear of failure. The overwhelmed mind often feels responsible for everything and everyone, carrying burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. A healthy mind recognizes its limits and understands the importance of rest, reflection, and emotional renewal. It knows that constant pressure does not lead to productivity, but to burnout. When stress becomes normal, people stop recognizing how deeply it affects their thoughts and behavior. Irritability, impatience, and exhaustion become daily companions. A renewed mind notices these warning signs and chooses to respond with balance rather than pushing harder in the same unhealthy direction. The difference between a normal mind and a healthy one lies in intentional thinking. One reacts automatically to situations, while the other responds thoughtfully. One is driven by external pressure, while the other is guided by inner peace and purpose. Choosing a healthy mind means refusing to accept anxiety, overwhelm, and emotional chaos as unavoidable parts of life, and instead committing to mental discipline, emotional awareness, and peace that remains steady even when the world feels unsettled. What you think about repeatedly does not stay in your mind as a passing idea. It slowly settles into your heart as a belief. At first, a thought may seem small or harmless, but when it is entertained again and again, it begins to feel familiar and true. Over time, familiarity turns into acceptance, and acceptance turns into belief that quietly shapes how you see yourself and the world. Beliefs are powerful because they influence your decisions without you even noticing. When you believe something deeply, you act in alignment with it automatically. A person who believes they are capable will take risks and pursue growth, while someone who believes they are limited will hesitate, withdraw, and avoid challenges, even when opportunities are right in front of them. The mind often builds beliefs based on past experiences rather than present reality. A failure from years ago can still speak loudly if it is repeatedly remembered and replayed. When the same memory is visited again and again, the mind begins to believe that the past defines the future, even though circumstances and abilities may have completely changed. Positive beliefs are also formed through repetition. When you consistently think thoughts of growth, gratitude, and hope, they begin to shape a new inner narrative. This narrative influences how you approach life, how you speak to yourself, and how you interpret challenges. Over time, these beliefs create a sense of confidence and emotional stability. Negative beliefs often operate silently in the background of daily life. Thoughts like, "I'm not worthy," "I'll never succeed," or "nothing ever works out for me," may not be spoken aloud, yet they guide choices and limit potential. These beliefs shape behavior in subtle ways, such as settling for less, avoiding responsibility, or expecting disappointment. What you believe also affects how you respond to other people. If you believe the world is unfair, you may approach relationships with suspicion and defensiveness. If you believe people cannot be trusted, you may struggle to open up and connect. These beliefs influence interactions long before words are exchanged. The way you handle challenges is a direct reflection of what you believe about yourself. Someone who believes they can grow through difficulty will persevere, while someone who believes struggle is a sign of weakness will give up quickly. Beliefs determine whether challenges are viewed as threats or opportunities. Your habits are shaped by what you believe is possible and worthwhile. When you believe your efforts matter, you stay consistent even when progress is slow. When you believe your actions make no difference, motivation fades and habits weaken. In this way, belief becomes the bridge between thought and action. Changing behavior without changing belief often leads to frustration. A person may try to act confident, disciplined, or positive, but if their inner beliefs remain negative, the effort feels forced and exhausting. True transformation happens when repeated thoughts reshape beliefs, making positive actions feel natural rather than difficult. Because what you repeatedly think becomes what you believe, and what you believe shapes how you live. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the thoughts you choose to entertain each day, and the beliefs you allow to take root in your mind. Enjoying everyday life begins with the understanding that you are responsible for what you allow to happen in your mind. Many people wait for circumstances to improve before they decide to be at peace, but peace that depends on situations will always be temporary. When you take responsibility for your thoughts, you stop giving external events the power to control your emotional state. Life is filled with unexpected challenges, delays, and disappointments, yet these experiences do not automatically determine your level of joy. Two people can face the same difficulty and experience it completely differently based on how they think about it. One may become bitter and discouraged, while the other grows wiser and stronger, simply because they choose a different mental response. Blaming circumstances often feels easier than examining thought patterns, but it keeps you stuck. When everything is blamed on people, situations, or bad luck, there is no room for personal growth. Taking responsibility for your thoughts shifts your focus from what you cannot control to what you can influence from within. Your inner dialogue plays a major role in how you experience daily life. The way you speak to yourself during stress, failure, or uncertainty either builds resilience or deepens frustration. Choosing encouraging, truthful thoughts creates emotional stability even when external conditions are unstable. Everyday life becomes more enjoyable when you stop expecting perfection. A healthy mindset understands that mistakes, delays, and inconveniences are part of being human. Instead of allowing these moments to steal joy, responsible thinking responds with patience, flexibility, and perspective. When you take responsibility for your thoughts, you become less reactive and more intentional. Instead of immediately responding with anger, fear, or frustration, you pause and choose a response that aligns with peace and clarity. This intentional thinking reduces conflict and increases emotional control. Circumstances often change slowly, but thought patterns can change immediately, even in situations that cannot be fixed right away. A shift in thinking can bring relief, hope, and renewed strength. This is why everyday life can still be enjoyed even during seasons of challenge. A responsible mindset also recognizes the importance of gratitude. Choosing to focus on what is good, even in imperfect situations, trains the mind to notice blessings rather than only problems. Gratitude does not deny hardship, but it prevents hardship from dominating your perspective. When you stop allowing circumstances to dictate your mood, you regain a sense of freedom. You are no longer emotionally dependent on outcomes, opinions, or conditions beyond your control. This freedom allows joy to exist independently of what is happening around you. Enjoying everyday life is not about escaping responsibility, but about embracing the responsibility of managing your thoughts, because when your thinking is guided by intention rather than circumstance, life becomes lighter, more meaningful, and more fulfilling. Mental renewal is not a one-time decision, but a daily commitment that requires awareness, discipline, and intention. The mind naturally drifts toward familiar patterns, and without attention, those patterns often become negative or unproductive. Recognizing this tendency is the first step toward change, because awareness allows you to notice what is happening inside before it begins to control your behavior. Each day presents new thoughts, shaped by conversations, experiences, and emotions. If these thoughts are left unchecked, they quietly influence attitudes and decisions. Daily awareness means paying attention to recurring thoughts and recognizing which ones bring peace and which ones create stress, confusion, or discouragement. Discipline in thinking does not mean forcing positivity at all times. It means choosing not to dwell on thoughts that lead nowhere. A disciplined mind knows when to let go of worry, resentment, or self-criticism instead of replaying it endlessly. This discipline protects emotional energy and prevents unnecessary mental exhaustion. Consistency is essential in mental renewal because change happens gradually. Just as unhealthy thinking develops over time, healthy thinking must also be practiced repeatedly. One positive choice may not seem significant, but small daily decisions accumulate into lasting transformation. Intentional thinking requires effort, especially in moments of pressure or disappointment. When emotions run high, the mind often wants to return to old habits of fear or negativity. Choosing a better thought in those moments strengthens mental resilience and builds confidence in your ability to manage your inner world. Mental renewal also involves patience with yourself. Change does not happen perfectly, and setbacks are part of the process. Awareness helps you recognize when you have slipped into old thinking, and discipline helps you gently redirect your thoughts without guilt or frustration. The environment you place yourself in plays a powerful role in shaping your thoughts. What you listen to, what you watch, and who you spend time with can either support or hinder mental renewal. Being intentional about these influences helps reinforce positive thinking patterns. Rest and reflection are often overlooked, but are essential to renewing the mind. A tired mind struggles to think clearly and make healthy choices. Allowing time for rest, silence, and reflection restores mental strength and improves awareness of inner thought patterns. As mental renewal becomes part of your daily routine, emotional stability begins to increase. Challenges still arise, but they no longer dominate your inner life. You respond with greater clarity and calm because your mind has been trained to operate from intention rather than reaction. This daily process of awareness, discipline, and intentional thinking gradually reshapes the mind, allowing growth, peace, and emotional strength to become natural responses instead of constant struggles.